Lazy D here, working on a 2014 Polaris Ranger 900 today. My brother works for a kind of land management company, and this is one of their side-by-sides, and the condition they have is a crank but no start. So I'm gonna start checking the basics. So I've lifted the bed up and I've taken one spark plug out. I am gonna check for spark by watching this while I crank. We got spark. Okay, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check for fuel. This isn't gonna check if the injectors are functioning, but I'm gonna just check that we have fuel pressure to the fuel rail and the fuel injectors. So on this one, a lot of these bikes, there's some sort of tab. This one, as you can see, I'll try to get close. If you pull these outer green pieces, might be hard to do with one hand, up and over, you can pop it out just like that, and then you can wiggle this. This will come off, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cycle the key quickly and see if some fuel squirts out of here. And that's plenty of fuel, so we should be building fuel pressure. So I'm going to rule out fuel as my problem, even though it could potentially be the injectors, but I don't think so. The next step I'm going to take here is a little bit out of order, but I have a hunch we might have skip timing on these older Rangers. I don't think they updated the timing chain tensioner until like 2017. Sometimes they can skip time, so it's not a ratcheting style timing chain tensioner. Occasionally they'll skip time and they'll lose compression, they won't run. So I'm going to pop the valve cover off and try to get it set at top dead center and just check the timing marks. It should just be these 4 Torx bolts on top, and the valve cover should pop right off. Okay, so I've got the valve cover off, and there's some timing marks here. They're marked I and E, each one. It's the same sprocket for both cams. Ideally, the I should be parallel with the top of the cylinder head surface, and so should the E on the exhaust side. So depending on the side, you line up whichever letter you're working with. I moved it around a little bit and it doesn't seem right, but the best way to know is to find the timing mark on the flywheel over here. So I've started to loosen this bolt. It's an 8mm. I reach down here and I'm going to take this crank sensor out, and I'm going to turn the engine around until the timing mark lines up. There should be a little line by one of these. There's a bunch of nubs in here that operate the crankshaft sensor. So when I find that, I'll show you. Okay, so I have the timing mark. You can see a little line down there. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little line by that part that sticks up on the flywheel. That's our top dead center mark. Now the correct top dead center for the cam timing can be 2 different positions. So I'm checking this one, and as we can see, the intake is lined up for the exhaust part, and the exhaust part and the intake is not lined up anywhere on the exhaust camshaft. So I'm going to turn it 360 and check again. I'm sure someone will complain about the way I'm turning this. There's hexes on the cams. They're a 21mm, and I'm turning this the same way the engine would be turning. It's a partial turn at a time. But with the spark plugs out, it's not too bad. Seems pretty easy on the engine. You might have to work back and forth. And what we're watching for is that timing mark to come back around. Okay, so I'm the other way around. The timing mark is lined up again. I'm lining it up with that rib that you can see coming down just below the cylinder. And it's lined up, and still my timing marks are off. So the timing is off. It is skipped on this. I'm going to go ahead and reset time and see if it'll start. It is possible that the pistons have contacted the valves and some of the valves are bent. The easiest way for me to verify this is just to set time again and see if it'll start. And if it doesn't, check compression and see if one or both cylinders have low compression and go from there. But it seems likely that the valves are probably bent and the head will have to come off. Okay, this was quite a struggle because I don't have the exact right tools. The right tools to do this. There's like a plate Polaris makes that goes in the back of the camshafts here that holds these straight. So I struggled using a wrench on the cam and I got it set back so you can see the intake side cam is level here and the exhaust is pretty close there. That's if I go one more tooth, it looks off the other way. So I'm gonna run with it. The timing mark down there is, you can see it there, lined up. So I'm gonna put this back together and see if it'll start. It's likely the valves are bent anyway, so this is more of a diagnostic measure. So we'll see what happens. Okay, I got it back together. I'm gonna crank it, try to start it. Still no go. I'll verify the compression on this, but it's likely the valves are bent at both cylinders. The options for repair for this would be to remove the cylinder head and replace the individual valves, which would be by far the cheapest way. Cylinder heads for these things are quite expensive. So most likely this bike is probably going to get sold and someone who wants to tinker with it will probably do that. But as far as me fixing it and putting my name on it, typically I prefer just to replace the whole cylinder head, which bumps the cost up too much for a bike like this. So in the future, if you have one of these, you should probably replace the timing chain tensioner. I have not yet seen an aftermarket one like this one fail, but it did. So here we are.